Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we're taking a deep dive into turning obstacles into opportunities for personal growth.
And we've got some fascinating sources to navigate this. We're going to be focusing on Ryan Holiday's The Obstacle is the Way,
Okay.
but also bringing in the paradox of growth for a different perspective,
Okay.
along with a competitor slide document I think you'll find interesting.
I'm intrigued. I've heard a lot about the obstacle is the way, but haven't dug in yet.
It's really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we can all relate to this. When we encounter an obstacle, whether it's a career setback, a personal challenge, or just a frustrating Monday morning,
Right.
our first reaction isn't usually, woo, an opportunity.
Exactly. Most of us experience kind of a wave of negative emotions, fear, frustration, maybe even a little despair.
Yeah.
The Obstacle is the Way dives right into this, highlighting these common reactions. But the paradox of growth adds another layer by connecting this to Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Maslow's hierarchy, like
Yeah.
that pyramid thing from Psych 101.
That's the one. It's actually really relevant here because it suggests that when we're struggling with unmet needs, whether it's a lack of security, belonging, or esteem, those unmet needs can actually block us from reaching our full potential even if we have big goals. So imagine you're aiming for a promotion at work, but you're also feeling really insecure about your finances. That financial insecurity could trigger fear and self-doubt, making it harder for you to go after that promotion with confidence.
Wow. That's a really interesting connection. So it's not just about having a positive attitude. It's about addressing those underlying needs as well.
Exactly. Recognizing those unmet needs and finding ways to address them can free up so much mental and emotional energy,
Right.
making us more resilient when those inevitable obstacles arise.
Okay, so we've talked about how we tend to react to obstacles.
Yeah.
Now let's get into the heart of the obstacle is the way, which is this idea that what stands in the way becomes the way. I love that quote. It's so powerful. But what does it really mean?
It's about understanding the power of perception. It's like that quote from the book, "There is no good or bad without us, there is only perception." The event itself, the obstacle, is neutral. It's our interpretation of it, our story about it, that determines whether we see it as a negative roadblock or a stepping stone.
So two people facing the exact same obstacle could have completely different experiences based on how they choose to perceive it.
Absolutely. Holiday uses the example of the legendary swordsman Miyamoto Musashi, who said, "The perceiving eye is weak, the observing eye is strong." It's about cultivating that objective, almost detached perspective.
So instead of immediately reacting emotionally,
Right.
we step back, observe the situation, and then choose how we want to frame it.
Precisely. And Holiday breaks down this idea of perspective into two key aspects: context and framing. Context is about seeing the bigger picture. Let's say you're dealing with a job loss. That's a huge obstacle, right? But how do you view that job loss if you consider the larger context? Maybe it happened during a major economic downturn. Or perhaps it's an opportunity to finally pursue that passion project you've been putting off.
So context can help us reframe a situation that initially feels devastating into something that's maybe a little less scary, a little more manageable.
Exactly. Now, framing is about your personal interpretation of the situation. Do you see this job loss as a failure, a setback, or a chance to reinvent yourself, to learn new skills, to pursue a more fulfilling path? That's where your power lies in choosing how you frame the obstacle.
This is starting to make a lot of sense. So we've acknowledged those initial negative emotions. We've started to shift our perspective by considering context and choosing how to frame the obstacle. What's next? How do we actually turn this obstacle into action?
Well, that's where Holiday introduces his 3 disciplines for turning obstacles into action: perception, action, and will. And he emphasizes that these are all interconnected.
Okay.
They work together to create a framework for overcoming challenges and achieving growth.
Okay, let's break those down one by one.
Yeah.
So perception, we've already touched on this a bit, right?
Yes, but it's important to reiterate that perception is about actively choosing to see the good, to focus on what you can control rather than getting bogged down by what you can't. He gives the example of Nick Saban, the legendary football coach.
Oh, yeah.
Saban talks about finishing.
Uh-huh.
Finishing games, workouts, film sessions, even the smallest tasks.
Finishing, I like that. It's about bringing that same energy and focus to every obstacle you face. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by a project at work, instead of getting bogged down by the enormity of it, you break it down into smaller, more manageable tasks and focus on finishing each one.
Exactly. It's about shifting from a mindset of overwhelm to a mindset of action. Now, the next discipline, action, builds on this by encouraging us to approach obstacles with energy and creativity to turn them into opportunities.
He also emphasizes the importance of staying calm and objective, not letting emotions dictate your actions. Don't just react, respond strategically.
Right. It's about channeling your energy into productive action, not letting it get dissipated by worry or frustration.
And finally, will. I'm guessing this is about mental toughness.
Yes. It's about cultivating resilience and endurance, that inner strength to withstand setbacks and keep moving forward. Holiday uses John D. Rockefeller as an example, highlighting his incredible self-control and discipline.
So even when things get really tough, when you're tempted to give up, you tap into that inner reserve of strength and keep pushing forward. You don't let fear or doubt paralyze you.
Exactly. It's about choosing to persevere, even when it's difficult. Now, I want to introduce something else here. That competitor slide document you shared. It outlines different competitor approaches like focusing on building a strong community,
Okay.
creating a transformational experience, or providing a transactional experience.
That's interesting. How do you see these disciplines, perception, action, will, playing out in the context of those different competitor approaches?
Well, think about it. Could a company build a strong community by focusing on shared challenges? Could they encourage their customers to reframe obstacles and take action together?
That's a great point. Or maybe they could design a product or service that specifically helps people develop those three disciplines, perception, action, and will.
Exactly. It highlights how these principles aren't just for personal growth.
Yeah.
They have implications for businesses and organizations as well.
I'm starting to see how all of this connects. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Understanding our initial reactions to obstacles, shifting our perspective through context and framing, and then taking action through perception, action, and will. What I'm curious about now is this idea from the paradox of growth, that limitations can actually liberate us. How does that fit in?
Well, it might seem counterintuitive at first, but it's actually a really profound idea. Well, it might seem counterintuitive at first, but it's actually a really profound idea. The article uses this great analogy about a plant. A plant that endures a little stress, like a drought or some harsh weather, actually becomes stronger because of it.
It's like what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Exactly. It's forced to adapt, to develop deeper roots, to become more resilient. And it's the same with us. Challenges force us to clarify our priorities, to figure out what truly matters.
So instead of getting overwhelmed by all the things we could be doing, a limitation might help us zero in on what we must do.
Precisely. And it also forces us to develop resilience. We learn to bounce back from setbacks, to adapt to changing circumstances. Like building muscle, you have to push yourself to grow.
And maybe the most important lesson is learning to detach from control.
Right.
Because the truth is we can't control everything.
Yeah.
There are always going to be things outside of our control.
Absolutely. And clinging to that illusion of control only creates more suffering. Limitations teach us to accept what we can't change and focus our energy on what we can.
I'm thinking about that quote from The Obstacle is the Way. Does what happened keep you from acting with justice, generosity, self-control, sanity, prudence, honesty, humility, straightforwardness?
It's a powerful question to ask ourselves when faced with an obstacle. Because often it's not the event itself that holds us back, but our reaction to it,
Right.
our perception.
If you think about it in the context of the competitor landscape, it's interesting to consider how companies might actually create limitations, whether intentionally or unintentionally, that end up shaping consumer behavior.
That's a really insightful point. For example, a company might limit the availability of a product to create a sense of scarcity and increase demand. Or they might limit the features of a freemium service to encourage users to upgrade to the paid version.
So limitations, when strategically applied, can actually drive growth and engagement.
Exactly. It's all about understanding the psychology behind limitations and using them to your advantage.
That's fascinating. So for anyone listening, think about a time when a limitation forced you to grow in unexpected ways. Maybe a financial setback forced you to become more resourceful, or a health challenge forced you to reevaluate your priorities.
Those experiences, as challenging as they might have been at the time, likely shaped you into the person you are today. They helped you develop strength, resilience, and a deeper understanding of yourself.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's distill some practical takeaways for our listeners. From all of these sources, we see a clear theme: reframing setbacks as stepping stones. It's not about denying the challenge, but about choosing to see the opportunity within it.
And another key takeaway is the importance of relationships. Both the obstacle is the way and the paradox of growth emphasize the need for connection and support, especially during difficult times.
It's like having a support system, a group of people who understand what you're going through and can offer encouragement and guidance. That's why things like online communities and support groups can be so valuable.
Absolutely. They provide a space for shared experiences and mutual support, which can be incredibly empowering.
And the paradox of growth also highlights seeking growth through service to others. Contributing to something larger than ourselves can be incredibly fulfilling and can actually fuel our own growth in the process.
It takes the focus off of our own problems and allows us to connect with something meaningful. It's like that saying, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others.
So powerful. Now, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to emphasize that growth is a process, not a destination. It's going to be messy, uncomfortable, and sometimes downright frustrating. But it's in those moments of challenge that we truly discover our potential.
Think about it like this. If everything in life was easy, if we never faced any obstacles, would we ever truly grow? Would we ever develop the resilience, the strength, the wisdom that comes from overcoming challenges?
Probably not. We need those challenges to push us, to shape us, to help us become the best versions of ourselves.
Exactly. And remember, obstacles are inevitable. They're part of life. But the way we choose to approach them, that's what shapes our journey and determines our ultimate success.
So to leave you with a final, empowering question, what obstacle will you turn into an opportunity today?
What seemingly insurmountable wall will you climb? What perceived roadblock will you transform into a stepping stone?
What challenge will you embrace as the catalyst for your next level of growth?
We can't wait to see what you accomplish. And remember, it's not about becoming some superhuman who never experiences setbacks.
Right.
It's about developing that stoic mindset, that inner strength that allows you to navigate challenges with grace and resilience.
You know, it's interesting because we often think of obstacles as these big, dramatic events.
Yeah.
But sometimes the biggest obstacles are the ones we create for ourselves. Those limiting beliefs, those negative thought patterns that hold us back.
That's such a great point. And the obstacle is the way really emphasizes the importance of controlling our inner world, our thoughts, our emotions, our reactions. Because ultimately, that's what determines how we experience and respond to the outer world.
So even when things are objectively tough,
Right.
we still have the power to choose how we interpret those events and how we let them affect us.
Exactly. We can choose to be victims of our circumstances, or we can choose to be architects of our own experience. And that's incredibly empowering.
It is. It's like we're not just passively riding the waves of life.
Right.
We're actively steering the ship even when the seas get rough.
Precisely. And that's where those three disciplines, perception, action, and will, become so crucial. They give us the tools to navigate those rough seas and come out stronger on the other side.
Well, this has been such a thought-provoking deep dive. Big thanks to you for sharing your insights and for guiding us through these incredible sources.
It's been my pleasure. I always enjoy exploring these ideas and seeing how they resonate with others.
And to everyone listening, we hope you found this deep dive insightful and inspiring. Remember, obstacles are inevitable, but they don't have to define us. We have the power to choose how we respond, how we grow, and how we turn those challenges into opportunities for personal transformation.
Keep learning, keep growing, and keep turning those obstacles into opportunities. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a new and fascinating topic. Until then, take care.